So, very good morning, all of you. You must have seen the first introductory video on Oscar Wilde, and today I will talk about the play which is prescribed in your course. That is An Ideal Husband. Now, we have read uh, when we read words having similar sounds but different spellings. So there is one category which belongs to this ideal also. We have IDLE, right? We have idol, IDOL, a statue or something. Here, ideal is something that is considered, say, for example, I consider my guide to be my ideal, or I consider my father or my mother to be my idol. So, a very intriguing, I would say, and a very contradictory title that Oscar Wilde has given to his play, An Ideal Husband. Now, um, as there have been many critics talking about An Ideal Husband, you also must have read at many places, even I. But when I talk of life, in reality, a concept like an ideal husband, an ideal son, an ideal daughter, an ideal wife, an ideal father, an ideal mother doesn't exist. I think you all will agree with me, right? We always strive for perfection. We always try to do our best. But then uh, getting that title of being idle in inverted commas is something very difficult to be achieved by anyone for that matter. Okay. Uh, Over here, there is a great person who is at a royal position and at a political position. He is considered the ideal husband, right? I think only by his wife, let us say. And to him, to his credit, I would say, he has done certain deeds which somehow break what we call the notion of what the notion of being idle, being an ideal husband, right? So, whether we talk of marriage or we talk of being idle, every person or the other, in one way or the other, commits some mistake, I would say, or an error or a crime or a sin for that matter. And in the same context, Oscar Wilde too has given this title, An Ideal Husband, to his play. And another thing before I begin is that when how he got this idea, I think I mentioned it in my last video also, that in his previous play, A Woman of No Importance, there are some ladies, I told you yesterday also, they are discussing that this institute of ideal husband, do they exist? An ideal husband is something that really exists or not? And from there, the idea clicked in the mind of Oscar Wilde that this will be his next play. I have read it. Of course, most of you would have read it. I find it very interesting, a very easy reading. There are no complications that you're not able to understand, as it happens in drama. Sometimes the dialogues are a bit tricky, and they are, you cannot take them in the literal sense. You have to understand the meaning behind those words, right? So here, nothing of the sort. It is a very interesting and a plain reading. So, sorry. An introduction to the play, An Ideal Husband, is Oscar Wilde's third successful comedy, Prior to this, his successful works as far as his plays are concerned were Lady, Windermere's fan, this I told you, and A Woman of No Importance prior to this. Now, please make an addition here. Maybe the design of the template didn't take it. It should either be italicized because this is the name of the play, or it should be in inverted commas. Okay, so it is his third comedy, and it was first staged at the Haymarket Theatre, where it opened to a good reception on 3rd January. It was really liked by the people when it was on staged on the in the theater, staged in the theater. Now, setting, of course, when we study any drama, as I had discussed in the beginning when I talked of Shaw, when I just started dealing with your course, the whole course, I told you that there are certain aspects when we study drama. We know the setting, then we know the plot, and then we know the theme, the title, certain things of significance which are attached or which are studied with every work of a work of literature, whether it is novel or fiction, right? So the setting of this play, it is set in London, 1985, and the play opens in the octagon room of house of Sir Robert Chiltern. So he is a kind of, I would say, the protagonist who is actually, according to his wife, an ideal husband, but then we know how idle he is in Grosvenor Square, a posh locality in London. And when the stage, as far as the action of the play is concerned, the play is completed within a span of 24 hours. Whereas हमने शो में देखा था that there was a gap of I think 4 months when the next scene begins or so, right? But over here, remember that the action of the play is completed within a span of 24 hours. Now, the persons of the play, or who are the persons of the play, the important characters in the play, that is they are known as the persons of the play. Robert Chiltern, Under Secretary for Foreign Affairs, his wife, Lady Chiltern, his sister, Miss Mabel Chiltern. This character is one Mrs. Chivley, Laura Chivley she is, and she is the one who brings about the conflict in the plot, right? Though I would say that her role is that of a villainess, right? So, Mrs. Laura Chivley, with her coming in the play, uh, through somebody else, that is Lady Magpie, is how the confusions or the conflict in the play actually begins. Then we have the Earl of Caversham, and we have Viscount Goring. Goring is Caversham's son. Now, through this important character of Goring, what Oscar Wilde has tried to show us. Now, this is somewhat, I have read it many places, that the character of Goring, which Oscar Wilde has written, is he is representing himself in the image, or through the character, I would say, through the character of Goring, Lord Goring, right? And according to Caversham, his father, Lord Caversham, he is the most idealist person in the whole of London, right? Whereas, when after we have gone through the play, what do we get to know? That, despite his idealistic attitude, when I'm saying idle, I mean IDLE. Over here, when I say IDEAL, that is what relates to Robert Chiltern. But when I'm saying IDLE, that relates to Goring. Okay, so being the most idealist person in the whole of London, this man has, sorry, somehow having a dandy attitude. Dandy was a word that was used in the Victorian age for such kind of people who moved around flaunting about things, many things, idolized themselves. But then within them, they had this. A positive attitude of, a person who is ready to sacrifice his own happiness. Basically, what I would say, that a person who is really good at heart in the sense, we have read, since all of us have read the story or the text, I would say, I would tell you here that this he is the one who brings about the resolution to the whole play. He is somebody who settles everything, though he's considered to be a useless person who doesn't do anything, any work, but then still, this person, Oscar Wilde himself, representing himself through the character of Goring, he comes out to be what we call very very successful and a very very appreciative kind of a character, who in some way or the other may be called an ideal husband, an ideal man for that matter. Let me so not say husband. Okay, so these are the important characters. Apart from that, there are other minor characters also with whom the play, who are there in the play. Lady Markby is there. Then there is Countess of Basildon, Mrs. Marchmount, and yes, Vicomte de Nanjac. He's the attaché to the French embassy in London. So he has some not very important but a minor role to play. And these ladies, with them the exposition start. The play starts with these ladies discussing about lady children, right? So, but these ones which I've mentioned here are the most important characters. So, there is always a conflict that takes place, and because of the conflict is what makes the plot. I told you something that differentiates between a plot and a story is this conflict, that why, or the cause and effect relationship, and the cause and effect relationship is what relates to the conflict in the play. So, Robert Chiltern, we know that he is a government minister and he has a wonderful wife and a sister. Um, what makes them a happy couple is that they are wealthy, they have a very high status for that matter, and that they have a happy married life. But then a small little episode, sin, I would say, that that Robert Chiltern has committed in his past suddenly crops up, and that is about to shatter everything about his existence and everything about the children's existence, right? And but then somebody comes and takes the forefront and things get settled. So everything could be taken away when Mrs. Cheveley blackmails him with a piece of evidence from his past. It is up to Lady Chiltern and Lord Goring to try and get him out of the mess, out of this mess that has been created by Mrs. Cheveley. But then, of course, somehow or the other, there are certain things for which he is to be blamed for. Okay. Now, as far as the major themes of the play are concerned, of course, marriage and forgiveness. Now, when we talk of more marriage, a very different kind of approach has been used by Wilde when he brings forth the married life of children and of Lady Chiltern and Robert Chiltern. And of course, the portrayal of the marriage to happen of Mabel children and Lord Goring. So he treats marriage as a complicated relationship, mocking, that is again making fun, the children's attempt at making a perfect marriage based on Sir Robert Chiltern's social status. So happiness in the marriage is not just because of love, right? It is because of the social status that they have, and that social status can be crumbled by, within a fractions of seconds. How if that secret which, or the evidence which Mrs. Cheveley has, if that goes out, everything will be destroyed. So what is Oscar Wilde doing? He shows how love is most important in a marriage by keeping only the villain single in the end. Who's the villain? Mrs. Cheveley is the villain, right? So very different treatment he has given to it. I'm not going into very details because it is just an introductory lecture as far as the play is concerned. Then forgiveness is throughout this entire book. One instance is when children tells his wife love forgives, and she must figure out whether she will forgive her husband what he has done in the past, or whether she will not be able to forgive him. Then, of course, you know this, the structure of the play, how it is divided. There is exposition in the very first play, and I would say in Oscar Wilde's play, even the complication is very much introduced, in this first half itself, in the very first act itself. And then the complication begins, the crisis comes forth, and ultimately the resolution that is there, it takes place. Now, why this, I'm not going into details because tomorrow we will have a discussion on all this in the meet that I'll have with you all. But for you, it is important to know that what is the structure of this play, and how well Oscar Wilde has been able to bring out his story through the various stratas that are used in the play, various structures of play that are used. Obviously, Act 1 is giving us the introduction, but at the same time, it is also introducing us to the conflict that is gonna crop up in the plot. Okay, so we would say, when we will discuss, after discussing the acts in detail, obviously we have to comment on the structure. So we can just say that it is a well knit structure that Oscar Wilde has given to his play, An Ideal Husband. So these are the important aspects as far as An Ideal Husband is concerned, right? And keeping in view these aspects, we go ahead with the play. Now, the first thing will be, we will first deal with the detail analysis of all the acts, right? The acts that are there. And post this, I will talk about some important questions which you may be asked as far as your exam is concerned. So, for the introduction part, I hope this would be clear to you. So, that is all for this.